ہمت کا شوق ہے، رکتے کہاں ہے کل میں رضوان و جبرائیل، دونوں کو اہل بیت کی خدمت کا شوق ہے، دونوں کو اہل بیت کی خدمت کا شوق ہے، جو دشمنان مر جائے تخلید ہے سروز، جو دشمنان مر جائے تخلید ہے سروز، ان کو کسی یزید کی بیعت کا شوق ہے، ان کو کسی یزید کی بیعت کا شوق ہے۔ بار دیا سلوات
صلی اللہ محمد والے اللہم صلی اللہ محمد والے محمد۔ بخدا علی سا بندہ نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، بخدا علی سا بندہ، بخدا علی سا بندہ نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، کوئی پھر حرم میں پیدا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، کوئی پھر حرم میں پیدا ہو، یہاں عشق مرتضیٰ کے ہے چراغ ازل سے روشن، یہاں عشق مرتضیٰ کے ہے چراغ ازل سے روشن، میری بزم میں اندھیرا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، میری بزم میں اندھیرا او سردار مدح حیدر میں جو پڑھ رہے ہیں میسم، سردار مدح حیدر میں جو پڑھ رہے ہیں میسم، کہیں ایسا پھر قصیدہ نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، کہیں ایسا پھر قصیدہ ہو، بکا نفس مرتضیٰ کا تو ملک پکار اٹھے، بکا نفس مرتضیٰ کا تو ملک پکار اٹھے، سر عرش ایسا سودا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، سر عرش ایسا سودا وہ ہے، بہشت سے بھی بڑھ کر تیری روٹیوں کی قیمت، کوئی مال اتنا مہنگا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا، کوئی مال اتنا مہنگا، وہ جو ردا علی نے اوڑھی تو سبھی رسول سمجھے جو ردالی نے اوڑھی تو سبھی رسول سمجھے کسی اور پر یہ دھوکا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا کسی اور پر یہ دھوکا وہ یہ زمین کربلا ہے یہ زمین کربلا ہے کوئی عرش سے اونچا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا کوئی عرش سے اونچا وہ سر عصر کربلا میں جو حسین نے کیا ہے سر عصر کربلا میں جو حسین نے کیا ہے تہ تیغ ایسا سجدہ نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا باخدا علی سا بندہ نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا کوئی پھر حرم میں پیدا نہ ہوا نہ ہے نہ ہوگا باخدا علی سا بندہ
صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد
حضور محمد وعلی محمد بلند ترین صلوات
اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد
200 اس کی رحمت رسول ثواب کی بات اس کی لحد جو روضے سرور کے ساتھ ہے اس کی لحد جو روضے سرور کے ساتھ ہے جنت کو کہہ رہا ہے میرے گھر کے ساتھ ہے ہو دوست تو حبیب کے جیسا ہو دوستوں ہو دوست تو حبیب کے جیسا ہو دوستوں کل زندگی میں ساتھ تھا اب مر کے ساتھ ہے کل زندگی میں ساتھ تھا محمد کی شان زینب کے لال رن کی فضاؤں پچھا گئے زینب کے لال رن کی सदाओं पाछा गए, एक पल में लश्करों के कदम लड़ खड़ा गए। घबरा के शिमर ने उमर, घबरा के शिमर ने उमर रे साद से कहा, हैदर के साथ जाफरे तैयार आ के साथ जाफरे तैयार आ गए। ज़ैनब के लाल बादिगर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। माशाअल्लाह। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. All praise is due to God, the Lord of the worlds. In His hand is the kingdom. He gives His kingdom to whoever He wills, and He is over everything capable. I testify that there is none worthy of worship except God, who is one and without partner. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is His slave and His messenger. He sent Him with the guidance and the religion of truth, although the polytheists are indeed averse to it. May God send His peace, blessings and benedictions upon the seal of the prophets and the chief of the messengers and the best of the peoples of the heavens and the earth, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And upon his household, from whom God has kept away the impurity and purified with a thorough purification, and upon their righteous companions and whoever followed them in goodness. I will begin, God willing, with a summary of what has been discussed in the previous 3 nights. I said that in the following somber nights, I intend to discuss the topic of imamah, especially imamah in the Quran. Imamah is the religious position of authority over the people in all of their affairs to which obedience is due, and the imam is the one who holds this position. We saw that God made Abraham an imam, and that He made a covenant with Abraham to make imams from his descendants. And we saw that imamah is the covenant of God. Only God has the right to choose an imam, just as only God has the right to choose a prophet and a messenger. And we saw that imamah is an incredibly lofty station, and the requirement to be an imam is higher than the requirement even to be a prophet and a messenger. And we saw that God made both prophets and non-prophets imams, all of them guiding by His command. Now then, a question arises. We have seen that imamah existed in the previous nations. But does imamah exist in our nation? Well, the answer is yes, undoubtedly. There is one individual, one person in this nation whose imamah has never been doubted, has never been questioned. Does anyone know who this person is?
Imam Mahdi.
Close, although his name does begin with an M. Yep, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. God established his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as a ruler and a judge over the people of the earth. He said in Surah Al-Ahzab verse 6, النبي أولى بالمؤمنين من أنفسهم. The Prophet is more worthy of the believers than themselves. If the Prophet ﷺ wants something of a believer and his self wants otherwise, then the believer must choose Rasulullah ﷺ over his own self. In essence, the Prophet ﷺ has absolute authority over every believer in all of his affairs. God also said in Surah An-Nisa verse 65, فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا مِّمَّا قَضَيْتَ وَيُسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. So know, by your Lord they will not believe until you judge between them in everything that arises among them. Then they do not find in themselves any discomfort in what you have decreed, and they submit wholeheartedly. In any dispute that arises between the Muslims, the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam has the ultimate right to judge between that dispute. And it's not just that they must obey him, but they must not even have an inclination of dislike in their hearts in regards to his decisions. So the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam has the ultimate right and ultimate authority over all believers. They must obey his every command. And he has the right to judge them in every dispute. And they must submit to his every judgment. In short, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Imam of the Muslims, without doubt. So now a question arises. We know that the Messenger of God sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an Imam, a ruler, an authority over the people to whom obedience is due in all affairs. But are there any Imams in this nation other than him? God said in Surah An-Nisa, verses 58 to 59, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بِالْعَدْلِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ نِعِمَّ مَا يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. Indeed, God commands you to return the trusts to their owners. And when you judge between the people, to judge with justice. Indeed, God advises you greatly with this. Indeed, God is seeing and hearing. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. O you who believe, obey God and obey the messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. Then if you dispute regarding anything, then refer it to God and the messenger. If you believe in God in the last day, this is good and best in results. In this verse, there are 3 commands to the believing people. Number 1, obey God. Number 2, obey the messenger and those possessing authority, ulil amr. And number 3, if you dispute regarding anything, then refer it to God and the messenger. Now, a question arises. We know who God is, and we know who the messenger is. But who are ulil amr? Who are those possessing authority? Not their identities, but rather what position of authority do they have? Are they those whose authority extends over the whole nation? Those who must be obeyed in every affair? Meaning, are they the imams of the nation? Or are they those who possess limited positions of authority? Those whose authority is restricted and whose obedience is restricted. Allow me to elaborate on this question and to clarify it. An example of a limited authority is that of an army commander. An army commander is an authority, right? He has authority over the soldiers in his army. If he commands the soldiers in his army, fight in this battle, they must obey him. If he commands them, perform this training regimen, they must obey him. However, his authority is restricted in that it only applies to the soldiers in his army. Let's say, for example, an army commander from Pakistan or Yemen or Iraq were to come to you and tell you, go fight in this war. What would you say to him? You'd say, no, you have no right to tell me what to do. You're not an authority over me. Why? Because his authority is restricted to the soldiers in his army. Not only that, but his obedience is also restricted. He has the right to command his soldiers, fight in this army, and they must obey him. Perform this training regimen, they must obey him. However, does he have the right to command his soldiers, go and make me a sandwich? Or go and sell the table in your house? No, of course not. Why? Because that's outside the constraints of his authority. So we see in positions of limited authority, they are restricted in the extent of the authority, meaning who the authority applies to, and the extent of the obedience, meaning in what they are obeyed. Another example is that of a teacher. A teacher is an authority. A teacher has authority on the students in his or her classroom, right? So if a student is playing on their phone, a teacher has the right to say, give me your phone, you're not using that anymore. And they must obey it. Or do this work, they must obey, right? But does a teacher have authority over anyone outside of their classroom? No, of course not. Their authority is restricted. So if a teacher from your child's school was to come to you and say, I want you to do this homework for me tomorrow, you'd be like, what? Don't boss me around like I'm one of your students, because you're not under their authority. Likewise, the obedience due to a teacher is restricted also. A teacher has the right to say to their students, answer these questions, do this homework. But can they say, give me a massage, or make me a sandwich? No, of course not. Why? Because that's outside of the constraints of their authority, of their obedience. So we see, in positions of limited authority, they are restricted in the extent of their authority, in who their authority applies to, and in the extent of their obedience, meaning in what they can command. Is it clear? So now let's return to Surah An-Nisa, verse 59. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. Ati'u Allah wa ati'u ar-Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. O you who believe. O you who believe. Obey God and obey the messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. I ask you, who is commanded in this ayah? Who is addressed? Those who believe. The believing people as a group, as a collective, are commanded to obey God and to obey the messenger and to obey those possessing authority from themselves. All believers must obey God, the messenger, and ulil amr, those possessing authority. So is the authority of ulil amr, is the authority of those possessing authority restricted or unrestricted? It's unrestricted because it applies to the whole ummah. It's not a group of the ummah. It's the whole ummah. So we can see in this verse that army commanders or teachers or judges or anyone who has a limited position of authority cannot be what is intended by ulil amr, by those possessing authority. Why? Because the whole ummah is not commanded to obey them. Right? The believing people as a whole, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, the believing people as a whole are not obligated to obey teachers. Because if a teacher commands you as a mu'min, you're not obligated to obey them. Or if a commander of an army tells you to do something and you're not in his army, you're not obligated to obey them. Yet the whole believing people, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, are addressed in this ayah. And they are told, أَطِيعُ الرَّسُولَ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. Obey the messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. So ulil amr, those possessing authority, their authority extends over the whole ummah. They have authority over the whole ummah. Now, their authority is unrestricted. How about their obedience? Did God say, obey ulil amr in such and such matter only? No. He said, أَطِيعُ الرَّسُولِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. Obey the messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves, full stop. Whatever they command you, you must obey. And we see that God conjoined their obedience with the obedience of His messenger. أَطِيعُ الرَّسُولِ وَأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْكُمْ. Obey the messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. So you are to obey those possessing authority like you obey the messenger. Unrestrictedly. So if ulil amr, if a possessor of authority who's intended in this ayah commands you, go make me a sandwich, what do you have to do? You have to go make a sandwich because his authority is unrestricted. If he tells you, I want you to go and marry Zainab, you got to go marry Zainab. You have no choice. Why? Because anything he commands you, you must obey. Because his authority is unrestricted. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, ati'u Allah wa ati'u ar-rasula wa ulil amri minkum. O you who believe, obey God and obey the messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. So we see the authority of ulil amr, the authority of those possessing authority is unrestricted. And the obedience due to them also is unrestricted. So now I ask you, what is the name of that position of authority over the people to which obedience is due in all affairs? Imamah. Ulil Amr, those possessing authority. In this ayah, what's intended are the Imams of the Ummah. Because they are those who have authority over the whole Ummah. Just as God and His Messenger have authority over the whole Ummah. أطيعوا الله يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. O you who believe, obey God and obey the Messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. So inshallah this is clear, that ulil amr are the imams of the ummah. But now a question arises. Does God allow us to dispute with the imams of the ummah in this ayah? Obey God and obey the Messenger and those possessing authority from yourselves. Then if you dispute, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ, then refer to God and the Messenger. Can we dispute with them? This is a matter I intend on addressing tomorrow, inshallah. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidi wa Mawlai Muhammad wa alihi tahirin wal ma'sumin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
सलवात पढ़ते हुए आप कोशिश करें कि गैप जो आगे है उसको फील कर लें. Young boys and girls, if you would like to listen to the English lecture delivered by Dr. Mazai, please make your way to the side room and please recite Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah ta'ala हम दावत देंगे मौलाना फरीद हुसैन से कि वो किताबत फरमाए. सलवात पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Nara takbir. Nara takbir. Nara risalat. نعرہ رسالت نعرہ حیدری نعرہ حیدری دشمن اہل بیت کو لعنت دشمن اہل بیت کو لعنت محمد علی محمد علیہ الصلوات